Okay, guys, so we talked about how the electrical activity from the brain can reach the scalp by going through the skull, and of course splattering a bit when it gets to the skull, but nonetheless the electrical activity from the brain reaches the scalp. However, that's not good enough to record good EEG. What we need to do is we actually need to take a little bit of gel, and this is going to be called conductive gel because it conducts electricity. And it's going to be kind of like hair gel with electrolytes in it. And what we're going to do is we're going to put some of it in each spot here on the cap. And what it's going to allow us to do is form a nice connection. We have our head here, and here's our syringe, putting our gel in right here. It's going to allow us to form a nice connection from the scalp to the electrodes. And we have to do things like move the hair out of the way a little bit, use the syringe to swirl the hair out of the way a little bit, and maybe rub off some dead skin. And then the electrical activity from the scalp will flow through that conductive gel, taking the path of least resistance, because the conductive gel is like a nice, welcoming, open road for the electrical activity. And that conductive gel then will lead right to the electrode, which will then, of course, allow us to record a nice signal. If you guys have ever had EMG recorded, which you guys have seen this from your EMG lab you had recently, the EMG electrodes that were placed on the body actually had conductive gel built into them. This is just slightly different in that the gel's not built into the EEG electrodes. But if you also remember in your EMG or electromyography lab, one thing that your lab instructor had to do was had to prepare the skin. So first you might have had to shave a little bit of hair away, although that's not always the case depending on who the subject is. And then you had to use a scrub to try to remove dead skin cells. Sounds pretty familiar to what we just talked about with EEG, where we swirl the hair out of the way. We don't actually make people shave their heads. And then we rub their head a little bit to try to get some dead skin cells out. In both EMG and EEG, the idea is to use the conductive gel to create a nice pathway from the skin to the electrode so that we can record brain activity in the case of EEG or muscle activity in the case of EMG.